everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got a recommendations video for you all. I have chosen my top 5 fantasy reads that I think you should read if you haven't already. So you may be thinking, oh my god, everything Lucy does at the minute is somehow fantasy based. I'm obsessed with fantasy books and fantasy worlds, and over the past year I have been consuming so many fantasy books. I just need to read all the fantasy, no matter what it is. So I've chosen 5 of my favourite fantasy books. These are all books that I've read myself, so this is literally me recommending books to you. You may disagree on what's in this top 5, and there are some obvious exclusions. For example, you may be wondering, where is anything by George R. R. Martin? I haven't finished all of his books yet, so I can't recommend that to you when I haven't finished the Song of Ice and Fire series. So let's get on to the books that you need to read if you want to read more fantasy. Number 1 is perhaps the most accessible fantasy series you will ever read, and that is the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. You are probably sick of me talking about this because I'm currently doing the Great Mistborn Read Along, which is where I'm reading all 3 of these books. They are huge, I know, bear with me. These are so accessible, like I said. They are so easily written, you slip into the world, nothing is kind of hurled at you that's too difficult. It is the perfect book to start if you want to read more adult fantasy, more epic fantasy, but you don't want to just catapult straight into the Game of Thrones books. If you want something just as epic, just as twisty, just as brilliantly written, pick up the Mistborn books. They are incredible, and I will say no more about them. They are incredible. They are some of my favourite fantasy books ever, and you need them in your life. Number 2 is going to be me sounding like a broken record because I am recommending the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I know. Every single opportunity I get to recommend Sarah J. Maas to you, I will take it. Because this series is probably one that you're aware of, but bear with me because if you've not read this series before, you are severely missing out. You are missing out of one of the best YA fantasy series of all time. I am going to just say that. The first book is obviously Throne of Glass, then Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and finally Queen of Shadows, which I have just posted a review of, and I will link that down below. Please do check it out, let me know your thoughts. And the next book is a book that's not actually out yet, but that is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This book will blow you away. If you read quite a lot of fantasy and you are just looking for your next read, but you want it to be really unique and kind of really special, this is it. This is so brilliantly told, it is so brilliantly written. The characters, oh my god, I'm in love with all of them all at once. So Leigh Bardugo also wrote the Grisha trilogy, which is the world that this is also set in, but this is set in a different place in that world, surrounding a different type of characters. And this book is all about a heist and this set of characters going on this big mission to rescue this person from prison. And this is just incredible. It is so epic, it's on such an epic scale, and there are going to be 2 books in this series, Six of Crows and then another book. If you weren't thinking of picking this up already, let me convince you, this will blow you away as a fantasy reader or even not as a fantasy reader. This is just so expertly done. The world building is fantastic and the plot twists are just, I never saw any of them coming. My 4th choice is one that could be technically dystopian, but it's more like a dystopian fantasy. It is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. This is a beautiful proof copy. It's so sparkly and brilliant. This is set in a Roman-inspired world, set around 2 people, Elias and Laia, and this book has romance, this book has epic adventure, this book has mystery, this book has suspense, and oh my god, that ending. In fact, the entire thing, it's a very brutal book as well. As you would expect from being set in a Roman-inspired world, it's not actually in a Roman world, it's just very kind of Roman-esque. It's very bloody, it's very kind of cutthroat, and it is very gritty. So if you like your fantasy dark and unrelenting, you will love An Ember in the Ashes. And my 5th fantasy recommendation, and my final fantasy recommendation for the moment, is the absolutely spellbinding Crimson Bound by Rosamund Hodge. This book takes a little while to get used to. It's very, very richly detailed. It's kind of like a sensory overload. But this is a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. There are fairies in here, there are mystical forests, there are kings, there are queens, there are badass assassins. There's everything you need in a fantasy novel in this book. And what's more, it has a beautiful package, and the actual writing is very kind of whimsical and it's very fairy tale-esque. That's what I love about this book. It really takes you into this different world, but the world is constructed very, very well. If you want your fantasy a bit more whimsical, a bit more fairy tale, you will adore this, because all of Rosamund Hodge's books are kind of retellings at the minute, I think. So her previous one, Cruel Beauty, which I don't have to show to you, but I would also recommend, is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and that is really good too. So I would recommend anything by Rosamund Hodge. She does excellent fantasy retellings, and I think this book just made me fall in love with Rosamund Hodge as a writer. And also, just look at that cover, so stunning. So guys, those are my 5 fantasy recommendations that I have for you today. I'll probably be back with more. I mean, let's get real. So let me know what your recommendations in fantasy are down in the comments. I would love to know your recommendations. I'm always on the hunt for more fantasy. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!